Hello, I'm Bob Ganzak, and this is MotivationU, the podcast. Hello, I'm Bob Ganzak, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill at Celebration Point inside the Coach's Podcast Room. The Coach's Podcast Room. With me is my guest, Charles Rickie. Charles is the Director of Marketing and Public Relations and Community Services for Meldon Law. But Charles and I also have a little bit of background in a few other areas, which we're going to have a great time discussing today. So welcome, Charles. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I've seen a bunch of awesome guests on the show. I've been following the podcast, and I was excited to be on, so thank you.
I'm really excited about this. One of the things that when I'm around you, I mean, I have a tough time sitting down because you are like a ton of energy all the time. And I love that about people. And it's like, I feel like many years ago when Bruce Springsteen did Unplugged on MTV, he was like, I can't believe that they got me sitting on this chair. And he would play a song. He'd try to get up and move, but then he'd have to sit back down because he had promised him he wouldn't dance around. And that's what you remind me of, just pure energy. So where did that come from? Where have you always been like that?
Bob, I think I've always been like that. I always tell people my glass is always half full. And I'm a very positive person. You know, life can hit you in many different angles. So if you try to maintain a positive approach, I'm a very social person. I think that positive approach uplifts other people. So I feel like if I'm happy, that could pass on to other people. And, one thing I really love, I know we're going to get into Dale Carnegie stuff, but enthusiasm was said a lot in the Dale Carnegie class. Yeah. And I could easily check that box. Yeah. Some people... Bob, there's a lot of different personalities, and some people can't handle so much enthusiasm. And I think knowing, where to bring that up, bring that down, and yet maintain always a positive approach is a skill. Yeah. And Dale Carnegie definitely helped me channel that.
Some people that live their life like that, I think of, there's a saying that Coach Jim Harbaugh at the University of Michigan has that, living his life with enthusiasm unknown to mankind. And that rubs people wrong. If somebody is living their life the way they want to live it, and you're sitting there watching them going, well, wow, why are they doing that? Or that's kind of obnoxious, that type of thing. It's really, my feeling is, inside of their brain, they're going, wow, I wish I could do that,
Yeah, that's a good thought. And I just think that, with that enthusiasm and positive outlook, good things come. Relationships are built stronger. Work is done better. Stress is easily managed. Your home life is better. Yeah. So obviously sometimes being too positive can be a little counterproductive. This guy's jolly all the time. Yeah. What's wrong with him? But understanding that balance and then knowing when to press the gas and when to not press the gas, I think is probably, one of the biggest things that Dale Carnegie helped me. Because answering your original question, Bob, I've always been enthusiastic. And I think just knowing when to hit the gas is a big thing in helping that,
First night of class, you were probably a little overzealous. And sometimes that enthusiasm comes out as cockiness.
Yes, correct.
Because it's, you still need to live in proportion of what you have, the tools you have. And the proportion of tools that we have are 2 ears and 1 mouth. And we can't forget that. We can't override what we were given at birth, and talk 3 times as much as we listen. So many times we come off, because of our enthusiasm, we come off as an individual that knows everything.
Yes.
When in reality, that's not what we're doing. Some of us listen with our mouth too, but we all got to learn how to be a better listener. But that enthusiasm, Mr. Carnegie said, it's the little known secret of success. I mean, I would rather, tell an employee, "Whoa, slow down," rather than have to tell them all, "Hey, let's get going."
Yes, 100%. And would you say, Bob, with that, people confuse the cockiness with confidence?
Oh yeah.
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 I think confidence is something that, some people lack. And then if you have a lot of confidence and you're positive, like, man, this guy's just a little cocky. But, I was talking with a coworker yesterday about Dale Carnegie. April, she's in the class with you currently.
Kinzer.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And, I took the class, the last go around. So we've been sharing the enthusiasm on the class and what's going on. I believe she's 3 weeks in. Mm-hmm. And what amazes me, Bob, is I think people take these human interactions for granted. People think that because they can speak and they have 2 ears, well, I can talk to anyone. Yeah, I can listen. And I don't think they dig deep down and really understand that interaction amongst 2 people. Knowing that if you lead with a smile, you might brighten someone's day. Or if you lead with, positive enthusiasm or you leave with some praise, you might get something more out of them. So I think that people take that for granted. And I'm sure you've heard this a lot. It should be a class. Yeah. I don't know what level you'd lay that in, but it should be a class that every human being takes at some point in their life.
I agree with you. We do have that as a college course. It is college credits. Kids need these things. Middle Tennessee State University, if you get a business degree there, it is one of the core products of their business degree. You must. It's a requirement, the Dale Carnegie course. So it is part of their curriculum. And there's some other colleges that are jumping into it. I would love to. I also feel, and again, we're talking about Dale Carnegie training here, and I would also love to see athletic teams get involved.
Yes.
Where I look at some of the challenges that go on the field, and I'm a sports enthusiast, played Division I baseball, all different types of sports myself. But I look at some of these young men and young women and look at the foundation of communication and teamwork and just the leadership that you get out of those 8 to 10 weeks.
Yes.
And it would be so advantageous to a college athlete. I cannot believe that a college coach hasn't said, we're going to do things different here. Mr. Franchisee, Miss Franchisee, Mrs. Franchisee in my territory, please come in and talk to us about Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, and I'm sure some coaches take that approach, right? But I'm sure there's some coaches who are like, oh, you ran the route wrong. What are you doing? How about if you said, I like what you did there. I like how you got off the line, but if you do this and this, your approach could be better towards the quarterback.
We don't want to use the but, though.
Correct. What's funny, Bob? As I said but, I knew you were going to say something.
And our engineer here, Evan, is also a graduate of the class, so I saw his eyes just go.
Yep. And as I was saying but, I tried to think of 45 words in that 1 millisecond of what I could say, and I was like, he's going to get me. But you know what? That's a fantastic example, Bob, of how impactful the class was for me personally. I'm saying this with all seriousness. I use this every single day with coworkers, with clients, people you interact with, and I think about it on a constant basis.
Yeah, it is that way. And you had mentioned the coaches. I'm thinking more of the kids. I'm thinking more of the athletes themselves. Yeah, I think it would be beneficial for all coaches to go through a Dale Carnegie class. I mean, Bill Belichick has done it. There's a number of coaches. I think I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, that Billy Napier is a graduate, but I don't know that for a fact, so I can't really speak to that.
That'd be awesome if he was.
I know Belichick is. I'm thinking of the young men. You know,
Gotcha.
I'm thinking of the young men that are on, the 85 scholarship or 93 scholarship kids and the walk-ons and everybody else. If they went through that, what a bonding experience, what an eye-opening experience. Also, when somebody shoves a microphone in your face, the ability to clearly and concisely articulate your thoughts to that microphone. That's something that you learn in the Dale Carnegie class.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that you can get more out of someone by taking this class. You can get a better experience in your interaction, and in your case, Bob, get the players to be better teammates, get more out of each other. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. I think just people take it for granted, And I just think that because they have the 2 ears in the mouth, they think they can talk. And, when you break down the class and I remember my first week, I opened the book and I'm like, smile. I'm like, praise and appreciation. I got this.
Yeah.
But as the classes went on, Bob, I realized that you only have it to a percentage. And then you need to perfect that. It's a skill. And the class helps you perfect that skill so that you can go out and be better, have better interactions with human beings. I'll make a quick story. I remember week 2 or 3, I started, Meldon Law, and I started the course
At the same time.
At the same time. Talk about a little pressure amongst everything else going on in my life.
And one of the partners of the firm was in the class with you.
Yes. So this was eye-opening, but I said, you know what? I'm a positive person. What an opportunity this is to be able to be here and learn this with my coworkers. Mm-hmm. So I felt I was blessed. Wow, this is amazing.
Let's also throw in here that the person that you were replacing,
yes, Josh,
was also in the class with you.
And my new office manager. I mean, and again, going back to that approach, I think people would come into the class being like, man, I can't believe I was put in this situation. Man, this sucks. Being positive, I'm like, hey, I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to develop a better relationship with my coworkers. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, I'm saying this with true sincerity. Josh and I are really tight. Nikki and I are tight. Jeffrey and I are tight. And I think that in my young tenure of half a year in Meldon Law, the Dale Carnegie class has helped me roll into those relationships. Yeah. And it's almost like, wow, how amazing of an opportunity was this? Mm-hmm. So going back to the example, Jeffrey and I are going to Washington. We're going to Pilma to a marketing conference, And I'm about third, fourth line in the hotel. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to use my Dale Carnegie. And I'm looking at the hotel, a check-in person. And I see the name tag, brass nameplate, Olivia. I won't forget this, Olivia. I get there and say, hey, Olivia, how you doing? How's your day going? She looked at me like I was crazy. Wow, thank you. How's your day going? I said, great, thank you. I said, is my penthouse suite ready? Had a little, some fun with her. She laughed. And then at the end of the check-in, she's like, look, Mr. Rickie, I wasn't able to get you the penthouse, but I was able to get you an upgrade and I put you on City View and you have a balcony. I never asked her for any of that. But I led with honest praise and appreciation. I asked her how her day was going, used her name.
Put a smile on your face, enthusiasm.
5 things that are in the Dale Carnegie book. And again,
You didn't do it to manipulate her.
Correct.
Either. You just did it because that's the way we live our life.
Yes. And did I ask for an upgrade? If I got it, would it matter? No. But look, what happened? So that's only one example. But I think in life, there's many opportunities to capitalize on that. And the Dale Carnegie course really puts those opportunities in perspective.
Yeah. So you have somebody working in your department, her by the name of Jordan Weaver. Mm-hmm. Yes, Jordan, I'm talking about you. So Jordan Weaver happens to be my stepdaughter. I call her Becca all the time because my daughter's name is Becca, and Jordan is so much like my daughter. She's my stepdaughter. I love her like my daughter, right? When she was a little girl, I first started with Dale Carnegie. She was like interested in the things we were doing, and I think because her dad was kind of interested in that, and too, so we went to Walmart one time and we bought a candy bar. I mean, we got in the longest line. We got in the longest line that there was. Went to Walmart. She doesn't even remember us doing this. I wanted to show her what happens when you just do one little thing. And you mentioned it, the name badge. I think the lady's name was Mary Jean, but she only called her Mary. I think that was what the lady's name was. But this lady we were in the longest checkout, and all Jordan was a little candy bar. Everybody else had a bunch of groceries. And, people are looking at me like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? What are you standing in the longest line? You can go over there and get out of here in a minute, But so this lady was just like checking things out, putting through the scanner, never lifted her head. And so I said to Jordan, when you get up there, hand her the candy bar and then call her by her name and watch what happens. And I can remember it like it was Miss Mary is what she said. And she put the candy bar down and she said, hello, Miss Mary. Bing. This lady's a smile came on her face. And it was like, it just changed that person's life. And as we walked away, we stood off to the side a little while. And it was for a while that she still had this smile on her face for the next couple of customers. But then pretty soon it went back to, just her head down and a frown on her face. But yeah, it's just the little things in life. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about leadership. My philosophy is that some of the greatest leaders in the world are living down the street from us, are making impacts on your life, making an impact on the restaurant across the street, or the Palmetto store down the road, or the Bass Pro Shops here at Celebration Point. You don't have to be named Gates or Buffett or Musk or Bezos or whatever to impact people's lives.
Yep.
And I just like to hear those stories, and that's why I'm glad you're here. We can hear those stories. Where did life start for you?
Man, well, I was born in Puerto Rico. Okay. I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is really cool.
One of my favorite cities.
Yeah? You've been to San Juan?
Yes.
San Juan is a blast. It's beautiful. And
I actually went through to become an instructor. Jose Alvarado, the name just hit me. He was, when I became an instructor, he's an attorney in San Juan. And he worked for the Dale Carnegie franchise in San Juan and wanted to become an instructor, an adjunct instructor. So he went through the 2 weeks in St. Louis with me to become an instructor. So.
Interesting. My mother's maiden name is Alvarado, so I'm gonna have to look him up.
I didn't say it like that.
There might be some connections down the road, but did a lot of traveling at a young age. My little brother was born in Houston. I was raised in El Paso, Texas, and then moved to Miami to South Florida, and then went back to Puerto Rico, kind of like from 4th to 7th grade, and then back to Miami, Florida. So, young life was moving around a little bit. I got to Miami around 8th grade and stayed there ever since. And Bob, haven't moved since I got here to Gainesville about 6.5 years ago, which, let me say, with 4 daughters, I have 4 daughters, that was probably the best move of my life. Gainesville is very wholesome. It's a small, awesome town, but it packs a mighty punch. The university obviously drives a lot of the force.
Diversity here.
Diversity
is just unbelievable. I love my class. People ask me, you're teaching a lot of classes in Gainesville. Well, working with Freddie is awesome. Freddie and I put the classes together, and we do that. Freddie Wiebe, by the way, is one of the owners of this restaurant where we're sitting.
Shout out to Freddie.
And Evan's boss. but I go into a class and, like in this class right now, Amanda Lopez, Talia Milan, Chela Kuke,
Maria Perez Youngblood,
Jose Raven, I met Christian Stray from Greece. He was born in Greece. I love that diversity that this city has and this community has. It's just absolutely. Now, It's all perception. Some people are so narrow-minded, they go like, why don't you learn how to speak English or something?
Yes.
And that's, but it's all your perception. And my eyes are wide open. I love it. I love the diversity. I want to learn about different cultures. Some people are narrow-minded. They don't want that.
And Bob, I don't think people realize how much Gainesville has exploded. It's expanding at a rapid rate. I remember 6.5 years ago, I left Miami, and talk about being narrow-minded. People were like, "What are you going to do? Hang out with cows? What are you going to go on pastures?" And yes, we have cows. Yes, we have pastures. But that's the thought process. People don't realize how big Gainesville's growing, how diverse it's become. And that's driving food, that's driving entertainment, that's driving a lot of things going on in town, and it's a fun yet very small community, wholesome place to raise a family.
Oh, I've said to my wife many times, we live in Valdosta, Georgia, and I've said many a times, and as a matter of fact, I probably said it yesterday, and if I would have had more conversation with her this morning, I would have probably said it this morning. If we ever moved again, I would love to come live in this community. I mean, I just absolutely love this community. And it has nothing to do with the University of Florida. I mean, the University of Florida is great.
Yeah.
But it is not because of the University of Florida that I'd love to come here. It's the community that is part of all of that. And it's just amazing. It's the gentleman that, developed Svein Dirkelbotten, from Norway, right?
Yeah.
It's everywhere you look, there's somebody from a different country.
And Bob, one thing that's worked out for me in my role is I come from, a number 3, 4, 5 market, in the country, in Miami, to a number, 87, 90, 91 market in Gainesville. So, I come from
what you're
so
saying.
I'm getting right into the radio stuff. I worked for Odyssey. Odyssey, is the second largest media company, pretty much behind iHeartMedia. They're a powerhouse in radio, events, activation, digital, streaming, television, all that good stuff. So I started in Miami, and I started in 4 of the biggest stations that Miami has to offer. And, what was amazing is the company's so large, I found out, wait a minute, we have stations in little old Gainesville? I would love to transfer. I'll never forget talking to my boss. He's like, why do you want to go to Gainesville? You're not going to make as much money in Gainesville. And I remember I was like, money isn't everything. It's about quality of life, family. So I was very fortunate. I was able to transfer being in such a large company. And I got here and started working for 97.3 The Sky with Bob Rose, 98.5 KTK with Storm Roberts, ESPN Radio, Steve Russell, Jeff Cardozo, and 103.7 The Gator. Fantastic radio stations, which led me to network at a rapid rate being new in this market, which led me to Meldon Law. Mm-hmm. So, what's really cool about going back to the marketing, I feel like all the past marketing efforts, I worked for Budweiser for 7 years.
Where?
Down in South Florida.
South Florida.
So, we did events, we did activations. Budweiser's really big on activating.
Whose franchise was that?
So that is George Halper's franchise. It's Eagle Brands.
Okay, Eagle Brands.
Eagle Brands, fantastic company, great group of individuals. And I learned a lot about marketing. Budweiser's a massive marketing company. And then basically getting into radio and learning that market allowed me to share those ideas in a smaller market. And that really helped me here. Mm-hmm. And then getting to Meldon Law, I feel like between digital, radio, events at Budweiser, and all the marketing kind of came together because at Meldon Law, we are doing a ton of marketing.
Yes.
And it is fun. So someone like myself who loves touching marketing, Jeffrey and Carrie really expand their footprint in as many things as we can do, which gives me a challenge, but it's a fun challenge.
I love my interaction and consulting with the group. So I'm gonna share something with you.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Yes.
All right. One of the things I best, and this is coming from his boss too. Jeffrey and I have talked about this before. So I spent 22 years of my life training radio salespeople. So this gentleman and I, we kind of cut from the same cloth at different parts of our lives. And one of the things about radio sales is, I mean, you're so constantly on the go. I mean, we talk about a account list, but I mean, you have 100 people on your account list. There is no end to your account list. I mean, everybody is a potential advertiser, and we just go and go and go and go and go. Bill Pacelli, my first general sales manager when I got into radio back in the early 80s, he told me one thing. He said, Bob, the palest ink is better than the greatest memory in the world.
I love that.
And you know, he was so into the radio station and the industry. He said, if I walk across the street and get hit by a car tomorrow and I'm not here, I want to make sure that the company can continue to develop. Mm-hmm. And that is why I have always encouraged everybody I've worked with in sales, in marketing, to write everything that is in their mind down on paper. Because when it's in your mind, it doesn't do anybody else any good. And the other thing we don't realize, and again, here it comes into leadership, is we don't realize, we know how we learn and we know how we communicate, but we don't stop enough to think how somebody else learns. There are people that are kinetic learners. I'm one of those. I've got to do it. I've got to see it and do it. So you're a visual and kinetic. There are other people that have to hear it. You know, they want to hear it. But you assume because this is the way you learn that everybody else is going to learn that way. And one of the first steps of leadership is to get out of that mindset. So write it down.
Yes, 100%. Trust me, if I'm walking into Jeffrey's office, Bob, and I don't have a notepad, I'm going to hear about it. No, I agree, because all that enthusiasm and stuff is great, but if you don't get the ideas on paper, you can't develop them. So I have a ton of ideas, sometimes too many ideas. Yep. And you're right, getting them on paper is wildly important. And, you know, one thing about the radio, going back to that, is the amount of different clients you have to work with. You have doctors, lawyers, restaurants.
Here, let's change that thought process too. Keep coaching. That you have to, that you get to.
That you get to work with.
Yes.
And in that getting to work with, you get to learn new campaigns, new ideas, because not every campaign is going to work for this type of business.
No, you've got it. And the great thing about what Charles and I have done for a living for a good part of our lives is all we do is go in and be like a sponge and learn about other business, the car industry, the food industry, the restaurant industry, the service industry, you know, manufacturing. You know, for radio, how can you come up with a campaign or an idea that a person that, you know, a company that makes widgets would want to advertise on the radio? You've got to be creative and come up with different ideas and come with ways that people will want to spend money with your radio station, because, you know, radio is selling furniture, radio is selling swimming pools, radio is selling boats, cars. Well, it can also be, you know, building concepts for different corporations.
You know, it's amazing because one of my old clients in radio, Florence Recycling, you see the yellow roll-offs all throughout Gainesville. They love the Sky. They love 97.3 The Sky. They love Bob Rose. And, you know, I loved coming up with this for them. We came up with Trash Talking Tuesdays. Trash Talking Tuesdays.
What a great idea.
Brought to you by Florence Recycling. That's been going on for probably half a decade now on Sky. And people remember that. You didn't sell anything. Oh, yeah, Florence Recycling. Trash Talking Tuesdays on Sky.
Yeah.
But when you need a roll-off, you're going to remember that.
Yes.
So it's really about embedding your message into the program of the radio station while hitting on frequency, which you know is king.
Yep.
And it's just fun because, you know, coming up with different ideas. So I feel like that was a solid transition in Meldon Law, because Jeffrey's all over radio, Carrie's all over radio, you know, so those ideas are important. And, you know, that translates onto television, billboards, activation, and I'm just having a blast with it.
Hold that thought, because we're going to take a short break here, and then we'll come back, and I want to dig into some other aspects of your background. We're coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here at Celebration Point inside the coach's podcast room. I haven't seen the coach around today. I have seen Andrew, the general manager of the place, which is absolutely fantastic. Just if it's not just the coffee, I mean, you can come here for incredible coffee. So food is fabulous. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
This is Steve Spurrier, and you're invited to hang out with me at the biggest watch party of the year.
You heard the head ball coach. You're invited to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Sunday, February 13th for the biggest game of the year as Cincinnati takes on Los Angeles, and Spurrier's will be celebrating the game all day. The fun kicks off at 5:30 with the Coach Spurrier meet and greet, and football watch party begins. Then watch the big game at 6:40 p.m. But hurry, spots are limited. Make your reservations now at Spurriers.com. That's Spurriers.com.
Welcome back to MotivationU, the podcast. My name is Bob Ganzak. That is Charles Rickie, Director of Marketing,
Community, public relations, just all
Everything.
world marketing.
at Meldon Law. Meldon Law, one of my favorite places with partners Carrie Meldon and Jeffrey Meldon, father, son, an incredible dynamic, which is always a good time to be around. All right. So you started your life in Puerto Rico. You came to the States, Texas, El Paso, back to Puerto Rico.
Miami, Puerto Rico.
Miami. I love Miami. I got to. I have never lived there. My grandmother would call it Miami, but I love the Art Deco. I'm not into South Beach. You know, that's not my part of the. You know, I love the Cuban community there, the coffee, the cigars, just the backgammon, the people on the street that you can talk to, and just the food.
Is amazing. Oh. So Bob, I have a love-hate relationship with Miami. Everything you said is a blast. That being said, I can literally write a small book on whether or not you should be in Miami. I always tell people, if you're not making about $225,000 a year, you shouldn't be in Miami. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun, the nightlife, the cigars, all that you said, the restaurants. But if your means aren't there financially, you are living on the hamster wheel that is Miami, trying to catch up to all those things that you're saying, but never actually doing them. Spending, $200 to $300 a month on tolls. Think about that for 1 second. I used to spend $250 a month on tolls. That's not even gas. So when you involve 6 million people,
because you're in your car driving from facility to facility, calling on people for advertising.
correct.
And if I'm your sales manager, not this one, but you say, well, Charles, just go out and sell more.
Go sell more, exactly. Yeah. And it's a blast. But if you don't have those means, I say this respectfully, you're not enjoying what Miami has to offer. You're just living outside of that bubble.
Yep. So how in leadership have we allowed? Let's not talk politically or any of that. Just styles of leadership or thought processes of leadership. How have we eliminated the middle class in many of our cities? You either have, the elite that lives on the shore, and then there's a little bit of cartilage where people shop, and then you have the poor that are on that hamster wheel you talked about. How do we do that?
I'm going to answer that for you right now, and people from Miami are not going to like this. Materialism, materialistic stuff. Miami is so, this is in their defense now.
It's not just Miami either.
Well, I'll use Miami example because I can speak on that. Miami is so competitive, Bob. It's so competitive because there's 6 million people packed in a small area that you have to find a way to stand out. Now, for you, that might mean having a better car, better clothes, a better house, or all of the above. You need to find a way to stand out from competition. In that competition, people are not realistic with what their means are, with how much they can get through. So they overspend, they overdo this, and they put themselves in a position because you need to keep up with that style of living that Miami has to offer. I'll give you an example. A 2,000 square foot home in South Florida in Miami is $500,000. That home here in North Central Florida is about $200,000.
Right.
So when you justify all those expenses from, let's say, a family perspective, you need to be in the upper level to be able to keep up with that. On top of that, you need to be able to travel everywhere. Going to Publix in Miami is a 30-minute ordeal.
It is.
Where Gainesville, you go 2 minutes down the road. Yeah. So, it's a fast, fun, exciting environment, Bob. But I think if you live there, you need to understand where you need to be financially to gain the most you can out of Miami. If you don't realize that, it'll suck you and spit you out. Or you'll be on that hamster wheel and never catch up.
Leadership. When we look at leadership, one of the challenges, just what you're talking about, is that materialistic thing. There are too many leaders, in my estimation, that their people are tools for them to make money instead of building a unit to grow. I mean, there was a great quote on Instagram I saw yesterday, and I can't remember who it was. It was an athlete, and I don't think he was an American athlete. I think he was a soccer player or from another country. And he basically said, why do I need 10 Lamborghinis? Why do I need 20 Mercedes? Why do I need 3 homes? I would rather take the fruits of my labor and the money that I've made and reinvest it back into the communities that support me and help them with education and development of young people. And I think from the Fords, and I'm not picking on the Fords, but from that generation all the way down, the Rockefellers, all of those individuals have just built riches for themselves at the expense of other people. And you build the Ford Auditorium. I mean, I'm from Detroit, so I'm born and raised there. You build the Ford Auditorium, Greenfield Village, the Renaissance Center, a lot of things that you build. that are great for the community. Then why haven't we changed the educational system within our? Why is Detroit still such a terrible, terrible city educationally for kids? Why don't we go in and help change that? That's leadership.
You know, that's a fantastic point, Bob. And I think it's gotten carried away. Going back to, like you said, forwards trickling down, it's now out there. And you'd have to go backwards and be like, this is not how you do things. Speaking of leadership, one thing I love working about, at Meldon Law is that Jeffrey, Carey, and Meldon Law give a ton back to the community, Bob. And talk about, being a great leader. I'm not going to say any names, but when I first started working there, people were like, oh man, at least you're not going here, where they kind of maybe highlight how much money they're getting and look at me and all fancy. Jeffrey's all about the community. And that makes me proud as an employee there because I know he's giving back and doing the leadership thing, not only with the community, but with his staff. I mean, I've read more books at Meldon Law than I have in the last several years. Dale Carnegie, he's putting all of his employees through the Dale Carnegie course. I mean, he really wants to pass on that leadership opportunity to his staff. And I think that it shows in our work. It shows in how we treat clients. It shows how we're accountable. It shows how we communicate. And going to your question on leadership, I wish more people did that. And you hit it on the head. I don't know why more people don't embrace community giving back, because the world will be a much better place.
If we look at people like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, and I don't know what all of their foundations, they're leaving so much of their back to the community, and that's great. I mean, the fact that billions of dollars are going to go back into the community when Bill Gates dies. Well, what happens if he lives to be 105? How about the families that are going? Why don't you take the money now and go build, the infrastructure of our schools, or make changes. I mean, if you want to leave, if you got billions and you want to leave some money, invest in it. Go do it now. I mean, there are kids that are 3, 4, 5 years old that are going to be in school in 2, 3, 4 years.
Yes.
You can change those lives. I mean,
and that's an immediate impact that will have. That's within 10 years, because then in 10 years they'll be the future, and it's just a domino effect from there.
We look at developers. I love Jeffrey and Carey and what they go back for the community. Do they have nice things? Yes. Do they live a wonderful lifestyle? Yes. Yet, they're not, they don't have the corporate jet and the yacht and the the 16 homes across the world and everything like that. And that's really cool.
Yes.
That's really cool.
It makes me proud to work there,
And you and I are both in the radio business. We met many of people that were like extremely wealthy people that owned radio stations. And there were some that got it and some that didn't, I was very blessed that I grew up. The first radio company I worked for was the Midwest family of radio stations, which were 4 men who started a company, and they were extremely community active and community oriented. All worked within the stations, and then I got into some places where people were not as.
Yep.
Yeah. But the greatest group that I would say I worked with was the Upton family. Dave Upton owned the radio stations. His brother Steve was very active. Steve's granddaughter is, what is the model? I can't think of her first name now. Upton.
Kate?
Katie.
Yeah,
Upton.
Kate Upton. Yep.
Yep, Kate Upton. That's same family. Fred Upton is her uncle, and he's a congressman, one of the longest running congressmen in Congress now. And their family started Whirlpool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dave's uncle and dad started Whirlpool. Dave and Steve, our brothers, their uncle and dad started Whirlpool. Awesome people. I mean,
Yeah.
It was like, what a breath of fresh air to work with. Here are, they were just like normal folks, What can we do for the community? We never had conversations about, hey, I need to get more money out of this or anything like. It was all about, how's the staff? How are people doing? How's the community? What's going on? What can we do? Is there any events that we can get involved in?
And, going back to staying involved in the community, Jeffrey in particular, he is like the Energizer rabbit, man.
Yes.
He just goes. Jeffrey's 77 now, and he runs circles around most people.
Yes, he does.
And, he's a work hard, play hard. And, he's the first one to show up, last one to leave. And, he really lives by that. And it's something that's contagious.
Yes, it is.
When you're next to him, you want to just try to keep up.
I love being around him.
Yeah.
I love being around the man. And, you touched on it, 77 years old, and he enrolled in the Dale Carnegie class.
Yes, correct.
He wanted to improve himself. And he's not one of those, people that says, do this, do what I tell you to do, not what I do. He's one of those individuals that's like, let's do this together.
Yep. And, for the people that don't really know the dynamics of a law firm, Jeffrey, when I say cares, that's a complete understatement. He goes out of his way to help people in whatever way we possibly can. So when you see that, it's like, man, I love coming to work here because we change people's lives. Some people promote, look how much money I got someone. We don't promote that. We promote how we help someone get through and better their life in a unfortunate situation. And just that little approach, I think, does our firm tremendous justice. And it's really cool. And I just wish more leaders, going back to your statement earlier, were like that. Because I just think the world would be a better place. And Bob, I feel like you're like, it's close. It's just a simple fix. And it doesn't get done for some reason.
It doesn't. The things that, we all find the things that we like in life, and growing up in the radio business, you and I are similar in sports, and I don't know if it was sports that drove me to radio or music that drove me to radio. I know it wasn't radio that drove me to sports, but it probably exposed me to it first time. I know it wasn't radio that drove me to music, but it probably exposed me to it the first time. But those things go hand in hand, and it's amazing when you start looking at the changes that are happening now in sports. They're still stumbling. They are still backwards.
Yeah.
My dad would say back-asswards.
Yep.
They're still, making mistakes and diversity but look, it's all in your perception too, because I see women on the field refereeing football games now in the NFL. Yes. I see women as general managers of hockey teams and coaches of football teams, and we're making changes. We still have not done the best, but let's start looking at the good things we're doing, and then let's try to focus on the good things and enhance the good things. Leadership principle, right?
Yes.
Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Make the fault seem easy to correct. We are so much into principle 1 from Dale Carnegie, that is, criticize, condemn, complain. It's don't criticize, condemn, and complain. But too many leaders and too many people, social media, all we want to do is criticize, condemn, and complain.
By the way, I'm going to be honest, it's not every day, 7 days a week, or 5 days for work days. I'll be honest and probably say 2 to 3. But the way you grab your wallet and put it in your back pocket, I grab this book and put it in my right back pocket, and I'll reference it every now and then. And Bob, it's a really cool refresher. I think it's...
Got to get this.
You have it on your phone?
Right there.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
So,
I love it.
You can grab that right there, and all the principles are in there. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep. And would you say that everything that you just said in the last couple of minutes, would you say leading with a smile is like the start of that? You know what I mean?
It changes your outlook.
Yeah.
You put a smile on your face. I will tell you, the Dale Carnegie class. I was talking to one of our franchisees, a dear friend of mine that we've got to know each other real well over the last few months. John Belinsky has our franchise down in Southwest Florida. Just an awesome guy. You got to look up his name. It's Bielinski, Belinsky, John. He's a nationwide speaker, public speaker, just an incredible human. But he and I were talking about Anthony Robbins and Bruce Springsteen and people that have affected our lives in one way or the other, and Dale Carnegie, and those principles are just like absolutely, spot on to what we do, and just to live them, just to talk them, just to be a part of that is like.
And then speaking of being a part of that, when you hear that every president has taken the course, over 500 CEOs of the top companies in the world, diplomats, executives, when you hear that, why would you not do this?
Yep.
So there's your reassurance right there. They're not doing it because they were told. They're doing it because they know it works and there's something to that.
I say this all the time, and I probably say it way too much. People, the thing I hear the most is it changed my life. I changed my life. It changed my life. I get emails. I have deleted so many emails from my, from my account just because, I can't keep them forever. But changed my life. Or I'll get a phone call. I want to put, my grandson's going to the University of Florida. I'd like to put him in their next Dale Carnegie class. I took the class in 1967. It changed my life.
Yes.
Changed my life. I actually had that happen in Lake City. I had a grandfather call me, and Scott Settle was a young man's name, and his grandpa called me, told me that he went through the class in the 60s, and he said, I want to enroll my grandson in the class. And Scott was awesome student.
Well, I think Abby told you the story. Abby Benton works at Meldon Law. She's in your class right now. Her grandfather took it.
Yeah.
And his course cost him $20 in like 1960 something, I think it was. And I think that's cool. Look at 3-4 generations. She's taking it.
The $20 might not have been accurate.
By the way, that's not the current.
Because when Warren Buffett went through it in the early 1950s, it was like in the $500 range.
Yeah, maybe the 20 he was confused with something, but it just goes to show how over time it's still consistent. It's still it left a mark on him, going to your point, and now it's going to leave a mark on Abby, and that is cool. That is really cool that they have that connection.
Here, I want to share this with people that are watching or listening to this. Charles brings up Abby Benton, an incredibly nice young lady, and works in the marketing department with Charles at Meldon Law. In week 2, individuals learn the beginning of the principles, and they've got to make a point to utilizing that principle with somebody that they'd like to build a better relationship with. She chose her grandfather, and they sat down and talked, and she loves her grandpa. She's been around her grandpa. I don't know how Abby's probably in her 20s, so she's been around her grandpa for a long time. But until this time, she never had the type of conversation that she had. And you could see the tears welling up in her eyes as she was talking. If it's just that a class does for somebody, it's not a byproduct of the class. We don't do the class because it's going to make granddaughters and grandpas love each other more, or it's. But think of if she may never have had that opportunity to have that conversation, and what really what it taught her is how many other people out there could she go have that conversation with and learn about. So thank you for bringing that up. That's splendid. What is your, because we have 5 minutes to go.
Okay.
What is your number one pet peeve of negative leadership, and what is your favorite leadership principle? Answer those two questions for me.
Favorite leadership principle is, I got to pick one.
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough one.
Do you need the book?
No, I don't need the book. It's for me, it's obvious because I just practice this every day, leading with a smile.
Okay.
Whether it's Publix, the office, I walk in with pure smile and enthusiasm. And if I can change someone's day, that's a win.
Okay.
I might not know that I did that, so you have to be prepared for that.
And you don't do it
Correct.
to do it.
Correct.
You do it because you carry your life that way in order, and the residual of that is that somebody else might be able to bring, because Mr. Carnegie's principles of worry and stress bring happiness to others.
Correct.
You know, it makes you feel better, but you don't do it for that reason. Just
Yes,
do it.
exactly. I don't walk around like expecting it's going to come naturally, you know?
All right.
And then to answer your other question, pet peeve would be common sense. Bob, I know this is kind of basic. For leaders that lack common sense, that drives me insane. Mm-hmm. So you can't teach common sense. It's not a course. Some people have it or don't. Some people are very book smart. Some people are street smart. Common sense lies somewhere in the middle of that, probably leaning more to street smart or the quote unquote street smart, if you will. But that is a giant pet peeve of mine. I don't think enough people have good common sense. Mm-hmm. And if they did, things they did in life would naturally have better outcomes, in my opinion.
Leaders that I coach, leaders that I get to work with and observe and study, and there's two things to me that grind me or I see fail in business. Leaders who put themselves first and who don't understand the power of their words. You can't, as a leader, you can't put yourself first. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to be driven. You've got to do those things, but you cannot put yourself first. Second thing is words. It may feel good at the moment when you get it off your chest. Those employees hear them forever.
Yep.
You know? Bite your tongue before you say certain things. You know, that those two things I see destroy more careers and destroy more companies and more relationships than anything else that I've seen. So yeah, I like that. I like that common sense. Just think that way. This is great. We're going to have to do this again.
I had fun. This was a blast. And yeah, and you know, going back to the common sense, I know we got to wrap it up. I think the Dale Carnegie course multiplies your common sense.
Good. Thank you. Dale Carnegie, you can find us there's classes coming up in Gainesville in April, jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com. That's jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com. And you can sign up, join us, come be with us. There'll be more coming to Jacksonville, Lake City, Valdosta, Gainesville, all over. Or if you're living in a different state, you don't have to come to us. Go to dalecarnegie.com and find your local franchise and please sign up, because that's the cool thing about what we do is all of us are trained the same way. There's only about 2,500 of us in the world, and you're pretty much going to get the same, little different pizzazz by the personality of the instructor, but it's the same core curriculum wherever you go, and it's awesome. It's all built from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, plus How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
And if Bill Napier hasn't taken it, we're going to get him to sign up for your class. We're going to make that happen.
Have to make that happen. Oh, wow. I want to thank Coach Spurrier, Freddie, Svein, everybody that is a part of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, an awesome restaurant from from the farm to the table, just absolutely incredible. Got to get here. Exit 384 off of I-75. Come to Celebration Point. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We're inside the coach's podcast room. I'm going to do a little video here later with my friend Evan, our producer. And I want to thank you, Evan, for everything that you do for us. I appreciate you very much. This is Motivation U, the podcast.